Hello. This is part 3 of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde in Psycholand. Parts 1 and 2 links are in the description. Now this last part is a search for a publisher for my book with all this newly found information about multiple personality, the Oedipus complex, and narcissism. Now after doing rewrite after rewrite and polishing the book, I was in need of a publisher. Upon researching the internet, I found tips on publishing my nonfiction book, such as how to find a publisher with titles similar to what I had written. These publishers should have the highest interest in a book if they have published other books like it, especially if my book had something new, original, and more current information than other books on the topic that had been published. Now, there is no book tracing back multiple personality to its source, and that source is the fictional tale of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Nor are there any books about the other things I uncovered, such as all multiple personality cases, like the Three Faces of Eve and Civil, were all discovered under hypnosis. Nor any books debunking the Oedipus complex or narcissism. So I had new information. I decided to send my manuscript to UC Press, Berkeley, as one of the books I used to research my book was published under the UC Press label. Now, UC Press Berkeley had published a number of titles about psychiatry, and I even had an acquaintance suggest UC Press. I was also living in Los Angeles at the time, so Berkeley wasn't that far away. I then checked the UC Press website for their policy on unsolicited manuscripts and found my book acceptable, according to their terms, as an unsolicited manuscript. So I sent it to UC Press Berkeley, to one of the people suggested on the site, a man named Stanley Horwitz. This was the first week of September 2008. Within 2 weeks of sending my book to him, I was hearing about the content of my manuscript all over Los Angeles, as I was working in catering at places like UCLA and USC. This was surprising and very upsetting. I then called Stan Horwitz after trying to cover my bases by sending the book proposal to 2 other publishing companies, Crown Publishing and Macwood Press. Macwood Press, which is outside the U.S. Now, Horwitz told me I had taken my chance of sending my manuscript over the transom, which is, sending in an unsolicited manuscript. I told him I followed all the specifications of his website in submitting my unsolicited manuscript. He seemed a bit flustered in our conversation. He mentioned something about, that's Wiley. Upon questioning him, he said, oh, Wiley was a publisher who might be interested in the book. Horwitz said he would return my manuscript, as his website said they would do, and told me he would. But I never received the manuscript back. Never received the manuscript I submitted to UC Berkeley Press from Stan Horwitz. I followed up my conversation with an email about what we had discussed after contacting my 2 state senators at the time in California, Barbara Boxer and Dianne Feinstein, informing them what I thought was UC Press engaging in an attempt at plagiarism. I thought they were going to steal my book. I sent the manuscript to Wiley Publishing. I had a copy of the email, and I sent it to those senators. Now, I made numerous attempts to find a publisher besides Crown Publishing, Wiley Books, UC Berkeley Press. No one that I contacted said they would publish this book. I then contacted humanrights.org, who suggested I contact the Citizens Commission on Human Rights, and they gave me their phone number. But my calls were never returned. I also contacted a Jesper Cray Vasky Vasky, a PhD from a medical museum, Institute of Public Health, University of Copenhagen, of whom I had corresponded with regarding his website on psychosurgery. He liked what I had written, hoped I would get my book published, and that I should let him know if I did. I then tried a small independent publisher I had seen in the Washington Post called Oedipus. I'm not sure I pronounced that right. Another no. Also contacted, among others, considered, as some publishers express they will not accept unsolicited manuscript, was S.A. Carver, AG in Switzerland, who responded, "Thank you very much for your book proposal, which surely raises some interesting questions. After careful deliberation, however, we have come to the conclusion that we are not the right publisher for your project." Then I tried a magazine called Leonardo, who seemed interested in an article about the book's contents. After several emails back and forth on what they wanted in an article, including sending them a polished draft, they turned their article idea down at the 11th hour. I tried emails to Psychology Today, Dr. Phil, Dr. Wayne Dwyer, who was somebody at the time. Dr. Wayne Dwyer, his response was to put me on his mailing list for his lecture series. I also sent my information, excuse me, on my book to all the major press, like the Washington Post, the New York Times, news agencies like Reuters, as well as ABC, NBC, CBS, and CNN. I then tried getting a literary agent, to no avail, such as 7th Avenue Literary Agency. On the internet, my few attempts to get an agent got me a response from self-publishing companies. I looked at these self-publishing companies, but when I would investigate them about complaints they had, and they were always had very strict contracts, the author was bound to. I could have put the book online, but I was afraid to because of my experience with UC Berkeley Press of it getting stolen, which I think now was a mistake. I should have put it online. But I will now never know since I didn't do it. However, UC Berkeley Press still has my manuscript. I believe the book caught people in the field of psychology and psychiatry by surprise. For people in these fields to have to admit the conditions of multiple personality is a bogus condition will damage their credibility and cause a tidal wave of lawsuits by people that have been diagnosed with Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde disease. My elation at my discovery had now turned to a bemused disappointment. I started writing the book when work was getting scarce at the time and finished the book while I was on unemployment. All the while, I was under tremendous personal duress. The duress was compounded upon my losing my written notes and the only copies of the book on disc when I was unable to pay my storage fee when I became homeless. I did manage to retrieve an early draft I had emailed myself and the Leonardo article I had emailed Leonardo magazine. I can't help but feel but people in the publishing industry and the field of psychology and psychiatry wanted to steal my work, certainly suppress it. If someone in the field of psychology or psychiatry sugarcoated the truth about multiple personality, then the condition that is called DID now will not seem like such a horrific malpractice. They kind of sugarcoat it, as I said. Despite sending out what I had discovered, no one, no newspaper, no TV station, no magazine would give me any airtime, ink, or even a mention. It seemed and seems odd to me that alien abduction stories with no proof, Bigfoot sightings with no proof, and multiple personality claims with no proof are constantly in the news media. From newspapers to TV news to book publishing to major motion pictures, yet my factual information proving multiple personality was bogus, was not even mentioned in any of the media. Even on the back pages, so to speak. Not even the National Enquirer at the time. People should be concerned about what has happened to my unpublished manuscript. Since if the media is ignoring my truthful research and the field of psychology and psychiatry, then what other truthful research is being kept from the public? Of course, we saw some of this with the Kuth thing. In essence, what else is the media lying to the public about, especially in medical conditions? What I learned from this is that even reputable producers can be flim-flam artists, and how even something that is a breakthrough in understanding can be ignored by publishers and the media alike, and the scientific community. The only good news is I had contacted so many people with enough details of the book to know that I can validate I was the first person to trace multiple personality to its origin, and the first person to uncover multiple personality is a fraudulent condition, and so is the Oedipus complex, and so is narcissism. Since there is no desire to publish the book or discuss it in the media, it would appear that the psychiatric and psychological community does not want anyone to know that multiple personality is bogus. And, why would they? Or the other conditions. As they get a lot of revenue derived from diagnosing and treating people with things like multiple personality, which is a condition a person can't have. And consequently, this person can be treated forever, since a person can't be cured of something they never had in the first place and doesn't even exist. Here ends the story of my journey of writing a book based on sending in a letter to the editor of the Washington Post. It has been a fascinating and eye-opening experience. Thank you for your time.